Right, 1 minute, please, everybody. Clearly on the presentation. No, neither did I. How are we doing, people? Can we start the meeting soon, please? Could you please take your seats for this magic mystery tour? Thank you, everybody. Is everybody back in? We're not missing anybody, are we? No, we're not missing anybody. Are you missing, Joe? Oh, did he have to leave? I don't know. I just wonder whether.
No, I'm just saying he's not back yet.
Okay. So I think we're probably going to try and make a start on this so that we're not all driving late in the night. So, Andrew, how are we doing for the live feed?
We are ready to go, Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this extraordinary full council meeting on this evening of Wednesday, the 19th of March. I nearly said November. It feels like it was only last month we were all here, doesn't it? That's because it was. Right, so I'd like to introduce you. Obviously, I'm your chair for this evening, and I'd like to welcome you all here to this meeting, including to anybody who is watching online and to any members of the public. And I don't think we have any in the room, but there are probably some out there watching us. Health and safety, there is no fire alarm drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, will you please leave the building by following the nearest running man sign to you and make your way to the back of the car park. If anyone needs assistance, can you please make yourself known to the organiser of the meeting, who is Andrew, and then Andrew will tell us when it is safe to return. The meeting can be viewed live online on the Council's YouTube page and is being recorded and will be available on YouTube at the end of this meeting for you to watch at your convenience. The agenda and the papers have been published on the Council's website in advance of the meeting. Could I please request that anybody making an intervention refer to the page number from the agenda pack to assist us all in finding the appropriate place? Thank you. Now, meeting best practice, please only speak when I ask you to speak. Please switch on your microphone when you're invited to speak and speak directly into the microphone and turn off the microphone after you've spoken. Incidentally, can you please make sure you're logged into your microphone? Turn off all mobile devices, either completely off or to silent, please. If you've not already done so, I've just done that, so please log yourself into your microphone. And please stop speaking if I ask you to stop speaking. Right, we're now going to start this meeting by doing a roll, I will name no names, by doing a roll call and declarations of interest rolled into one so that the camera has time to pick us up. So this will cover off agenda item 2 as well. And as you may remember, the camera takes a short time to pick up whoever's speaking. And so if we're only saying yes, present, it doesn't have time. And so it's easier to do the declarations of interest at the same time. So Andrew, I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, who's going to do the presence and declaration of interest at the same time. Please, over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Arnott.
Present and no interest to declare, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aurora Bailey.
Present, thank you, nothing to declare.
Councillor Brian Bailey.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Barlow.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Blakey.
Present, no declaration.
Councillor Bloxham.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Bruce.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Burrup.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Chapman.
Present, no declaration.
Councillor Bethany Collins.
Present and no interest to declare.
Councillor Roy Collins.
Present.
And do you have a declaration of interest, Roy?
Why have we got to declare this?
Because
we must all have a declaration
can we not
because
have-
we all claim money for being councillors.
Roy, you just need to say I have no declaration of interest to make if that's the case. Okay.
No.
Councillor Davey.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Dumper.
Present and no declarations of interest.
Councillor Faithful.
Present, no declaration.
Councillor Fernley.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Goodman.
Present and no declaration of interests.
Councillor Haggerty.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Hartnell.
Present, and I need to declare an ORI as elected Devon County Councillor. Sorry.
You may also wish to declare that you've got a dispensation.
Oh, and I've got a dispensation. Sorry. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Present, no declarations, thank you, Andrew.
Councillor Hookway.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Ingham.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Jackson.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Jeffreys.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Ledger.
Present, no declarations. Thank you, Andrew.
Councillor Loudon.
Present and no declarations of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKinder.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Martin.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Councillor Nicholas.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Olive.
Present and no declarations.
Councillor Parr.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Rickson.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Rylance.
Present, no declarations. Melanie, if you tap it to the left-hand side, it should work.
Councillor Toy.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Westerman.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Whibley.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Wilson.
Present, no declarations.
And Councillor Ragg.
Present, no declaration.
Thank you, Andrew. Right. Oh, Councillor Whibley, who is present at the back of the room, please.
I did speak,
Did-
I did say that.
Did you hear him? You're super quiet then. Hello. Right. Thank you for that misinformation, glorious leader. Right. Okay, so agenda item 3, public speaking. I believe there are no members of the public registered to speak. Okay. Matters of urgency, which is item 4 on the agenda. There are no matters of urgency tonight. Confidential and exempt items. There are no confidential and exempt items tonight. Item 6, local government reorganisation. Right, so we have a report which you've had since this morning, and you've been talked through informally just now. I'm going to pass over to the leader of the council, I think, to introduce his report and propose the recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't think members will relish a long introduction from me at all, so I'll keep it extremely short. In December the 16th, we were communicated with by government that slightly unexpectedly there would be this major local government reorganisation, and so we set to it at a solid sprint from then until tonight. The districts have found themselves common cause with Exeter wishing to go their own way. Very pleased that Torbay have attached themselves to that as well. There are no ideal solutions to this at the moment, but the requirement was that we come up with a solution. And the one that the districts have pursued has answered the exam questions, which was the point. We needed to have somewhere within our proposal that had a serious economic driver. Given that Plymouth had wanted to go their own way, ours naturally therefore includes Exeter. B, there were to be no exclusions, which is part of the argument for why Torridge would come in as well as North Devon with us. C, we were instructed to put in one suggestion with the consent of as many councils as possible, if we could. And that is what we have done with this 145 proposal. Members will be aware, as are members of the public, that March the 21st is really, it is Friday, and it's the day where you hand in your mock A-level papers. This is just the beginning. This is the end of the phony war, so to speak. The government will receive all these documents. They'll make a study of it. They have, at our request, clarified that these ideas are for feedback, not for knockback. So we have a second, perhaps third bite of the cherry. The expectation would be that all councils get together, perhaps in early May after the election period, having now all revealed the various ideas that are there, and we start to move towards a unity around one proposition. And of course, we have until November to do that. So without wanting to bore members any further, Chair, I'd like to propose the recommendations, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Okay, so next I'm moving to, John, Councillor Loudon, please.
Need a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish to second the recommendation.
Thank you,
Chair.
Councillor
And I
Loudon.
wish to reserve my right to speak at a later point.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that Andy well, you're down to present the report as well? In my script?
Yeah.
I mean, you do not, yes, you don't, it's right down here in the script. I mean, would you like to present the report?
What I can add, I think it was a very eloquent introduction, but I suppose the points I would just emphasise in terms of what's before you tonight is the key kind of criteria that were established in the invitation of the 5th of February, which are, to work towards, if possible, a single proposal and to be collaborative and proactive in that, to use existing building blocks of local government and to get towards the kind of target of 500,000 or thereabouts. And as has been said already, to make sure it works for the whole of the area. And you can see the criteria there and how that has been responded to in terms of the specific criteria 8H within the Minister's letter, Chair.
Thank you very much, Andy. Okay, so we have the paper. We have a paper that a recommendation that is both proposed and seconded, and now we can move into debate. We're moving into debate. Yes, Ian. Yes. So you are first, Councillor Barlow, please.
Okay, so it's more of a question. I just want to confirm that the recommendation is just to put this forward, and that's it. There isn't any recommendation to spend a load more money of looking into this and spending lots of time on it going forward. The recommendation that's in front of us today is to hand this in to the government. And that's why I will be coming back with questions later.
That is correct, Councillor Barlow. Yes, that is what we're being asked to approve. It has to go to full council. This is the response, the document that you received this morning, and that is what we want to submit. Councillor Ledger, is it about that particularly, or is that okay to come in? Okay, Councillor Faithful, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. We've had all this talk about this 300 or up to 300, like with Plymouth or Exeter. What I read when I read the original documents was that's a starting point. They would accept down unitaries down to about 300 if it's a growing or potentially growing community that will aim towards the 500. And neither Exeter or Plymouth presently are anywhere near that. I mean, Plymouth's closer than Exeter. So, I mean, unless they start claiming other places around them, they're not going to even start at 300, let alone grow to it.
Thank you, Councillor Faithful. Who would like to address that? I mean, it's an observation, isn't it, really? Yeah. It's an observation that I think many of us are also observing. Thank you, Councillor Faithful. Councillor Ledger, you're next.
This question for Andy. Will we receive the feedback on all interim plans or just our own? And you don't have to answer that tonight. It's just, can we seek clarity on whether we would receive it or not?
Who is that for? Andy? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It's a very good question. I don't actually know the answer. I presume we'll all receive direct feedback. I think what would be really helpful if all, much as it refers to building things like a common data set, if everyone were there, then able to share the feedback they had received, so everyone's fully cited in terms of the fact that there will be multiple submissions going in.
Thank you, Andy. Councillor Brian Bailey, please.
Thank you very much, Anna. I'm concerned that on page 1 of the report, local government reorganisation, paragraph 3, what Andy referred to earlier, it appears that there's no positive address to the situation of adult and social care, NHS funding in general, and it seems to be left hanging, which I don't think is a very good idea, because these are crucial things that have to be done, and there seems to be no plan to get them sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So I think Paul is happy to answer that.
I'm happy to absolutely agree with that, Councillor Brian Bailey. There's no doubt about it that at this stage, the government and the Treasury seem to expect, and they do say this, that the savings costs that they claim of abolishing county and the districts will somehow be allocated to fix the hole that is there on adult and children's social care and also special educational need. There is no proof at all that that is the case, and I can't but agree with you. And as we know, and if you just do the maths, unless there is further, it may be that it's hoped that our reserves may help with that, but that's, again, you can only sell the family silver once, and unless there is a central government solution to that crisis, then you do wonder what's going on. I think that underscores why it is important that we don't do what I would say Plymouth are doing, which is pulling up the ladder behind them. I'm all right, Jack, because it is incredibly serious. You can't have tiny unitaries trying to take, as Peter was saying, quite right, some people will try and get away with 300,000. Well, good luck to them trying to operate adult and children's social services and special educational need. The other thing is, if you look at the map of Devon, there are pockets of extreme activity around all those things, and of course some where there's not. Dartmoor, very obviously. So this will need to feed in as an absolute priority as we have further discussions after these submissions.
Very quick.
Yes, just quickly.
Thank you.
Please,
Thank you, Paul, for that. My concern as well is that this is happening in the midst of the NHS reorganisation. So it's putting chaos amongst more chaos. And the conclusion is, I fear, going to be an absolute disaster. Thank you very much.
A fair observation, I think, and one that we all share. Well, many of us share anyway. Right, are there any more questions, comments? Roy, please. Councillor Roy Collins.
Thank you. I can't understand why district and county councils aren't fighting the government on this, because every reorganisation seems to have been a disaster in the past, in my opinion. The government haven't really got a clue. You only got to look to see what they've done to farming. They've taken away our lands and taken away our subsidies. They've stopped the 10 million they had to help with farmers who had mental health problems. If the unitary does come about, you can be sure that the seawall in Exmouth would not have been repaired, rebuilt like we've done. Because you only got to look down the coast a bit further at Dawlish. I mean, this keeps on washing out down there, the cliff falling down. There's a tremendous amount of money needs to be spent at Dawlish. I just cannot see. And I'd like to know, where the democracy in this? When are the public going to be given a referendum, be able to vote on it? When's that going to happen? I've heard none of this talk tonight. The public have to be consulted, surely. A major thing like this, if the public voted for it, then I would accept it. But I should be voting against it tonight.
Okay. There are phases of consultation of the public built into the timeline before running up to November. Obviously, it's not going to be a referendum because there's no time really built in to organise that by the 28th of November. But I do take your point. It does seem fast.
Can I come in?
Yes, please do, Leader.
So, again, Councillor Collins, Roy Collins, wouldn't disagree with the word you're saying, although, you know, it'd be helpful if you did vote for this because we've got to hand something in. There is a covering letter that will come from all of the district leaders signed by us, and it is diplomatically expressed, as you can imagine, but it very strongly points out all the reservations we've got. So to your question, are we fighting back against this? I don't think if we went up to Whitehall, forgive me, this isn't referring to you, if we went up to Whitehall with pitchforks, that's going to get us anywhere. This is a long game of pushing back, I suspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Next up, we have Steve Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I thank the team for working so hard on this unfortunate circumstance that's been imposed upon us by the government. There is a fair bit of interest out there from the general public, and I as a councillor is finding it difficult to answer all their questions, like everybody else at the top table, I expect. My question is that when we get a response from the government, whatever it is, will there be a clear and precise press release, putting it in straightforward English so that the residents will understand it? Because there is still confusion. Well, there's a lot of confusion out there from the public what it's actually going to mean. And I mean, I've been asked, well, where is it going to be based? Are we going to be even more remote now? If we, you know, for sake of argument, if the headquarters moves to Torquay, I don't know. So I'm just asking that when you get a response, could you just put it in plain English, what it will mean, whatever it is, to the general public, please?
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. I think Tracy is going to address the comms question. As to all the other details, I'm not sure we can't venture anything at the moment.
No, as far as the wider questions are concerned, we're really not in a position to know at the moment. But on the comms, what we've tried to do throughout this process is to keep all staff and members up to date with the progression through this roadmap that we are on. And as far as our residents and our tenants are concerned, then absolutely, as we move forward, we will ensure that we are very clearly sharing with them the outcome of the correspondence we're receiving and the proposals we're putting forward, including any consultation that we do as we go through the summer.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay, so I've got you on the list here, Duncan. You're down next. Councillor McKinder, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on these points of consultation, there is obvious concern amongst the parish and I'm assuming town councils, because I'm connected with parish councils, about what impact this reorganisation will have on them. They'll have somebody different to deal with. I'm fairly sure the answer is yes, but just like confirmation that we will be including the parish and town councils as part of our consultation so that we hear what they're saying and get their input before it's too late. Thank you.
Do you want to address that? It is actually in the timeline, though, I think, isn't it?
It is, and so last night, Tracy and Andy hosted a webinar or an interactive webinar for all of the town and parish councils. It was extremely well attended. I'm not sure how many other councils in Devon can say that they did that, but that is part of absolutely the intention moving forward. We're a little bit hamstrung because the government haven't even mentioned town and parish councils in all of this. And the suspicion has to be because they all live in cities and they don't understand. And to an extent, that goes to my friends in Exeter. They don't have any parish or town councils. They just have one council. Plymouth is exactly the same. So we do need to encourage government, and we have in conversations, to take that very seriously.
Thank you, Leader. Next up, I have Councillor Bruce, please, and then I think possibly Councillor Barlow and Faithful wanted to come back kin. Do you still want to, councillor Barley? Okay, so
Marcus.
Alistair first, and then councillor Hartnell, and then I'll come back to you, councillor
Thank,
Barley. Sorry, brain fog.
thank you, Chair. The feedback I've got kind of echoes a number of the points that have so far been made, mainly around accountability, but also the legality. And I would ask if we could have a firm clarification on some of these points, particularly the one about the referendum, which you just said we haven't got time for. Are we in breach of any statutory legal requirement? I'm getting nods.
Oh, Mel, I think you can take this one, please.
No, there's no legal requirement. I mean, if there was, the government would impose that upon us, and that's not what it's saying. So no.
Right, thank you. So councillor Hartnell next, please, Marcus.
Thank you, Chair. So, it's a bit loud. I think so it's probably a question for the leader, really. And my take on this, I think, with the whole sort of Exeter situation is that they've obviously got the political advantage at the moment in that the government of the day is the same colour as them. So would it be right to assume that Exeter are negotiating for their own unitary, possibly taking a slice of East Devon, Mid Devon and Teignbridge? Would it be fair to say that they may come back to the table if they get pushed back from government, because it's likely it's going to go one of two ways? So that's my first question. Secondly...
Do you want to do them in all together or one by one?
Sorry?
Do you want to ask them all
do it.
together or one by one?
There's only one other question, really, so it might be easier just to keep going. I'm also curious to there's no mean feat in getting agreement with all these districts, and I understand that a lot of work's gone into that, and absolutely it's good that it's got to this point. I'm just curious to understand why potentially Teignbridge hasn't been included within perhaps Exeter, East Devon and Mid Devon, because we've already got a relationship between East Devon, Exeter and Teignbridge with Strata, for example, which works incredibly well. So I'm just wondering if discussions went down that route and to understand why they didn't perhaps progress with including Teignbridge, because there's a great deal of work in unpicking that agreement if things change. And we all know connectivity in Devon is much better east to west than it is north to south. So having Torridge and North Devon in with us strikes me as being a bit unusual, but I do understand the fact that nobody can be left out. So that's just some answers to those questions. Thank you.
Well, so obviously I can't and mustn't speak for the leader of Exeter City Council, but let's say for sake of argument, if he were not successful in the current punt, then I don't see where else he'd have to come but back to the table with the rest of us. And you might, I think anybody might see that Exeter's idea is at a considerable disadvantage to Plymouth's. Plymouth is already a unitary. Exeter is a district council of 130,000 people that needs to find 200 somehow. So, I mean, I'm not going to go to any betting shops with how the government will view it. You can assume, of course, you're quite right, Marcus, that it's an advantage to be in the same party as the government of the day. If I'm frank with you, having been to the District Council Network meeting last week, I asked Jim McMahon, the minister, directly. I said, is it the case that government is struggling with capacity? In other words, you are dealing with the priority schemes, so Surrey would be one of those, and the first phase, for example, East Sussex. And we can see and we're hearing that the government, the rivets are already popping off in that department. And I think a second question becomes, which may be to the disadvantage of Plymouth and Exeter in the long term, can the government achieve this in the lifetime of this Parliament, which has been their great, I wouldn't say boast, great hope, and it may be that it's now, it's now interacting with the sort of cold air of reality, and it may not go that way. As for the Timbridge thing, yeah, I mean, it would be great to be in with Timbridge, and who knows where this is going to land. They also have a very productive and positive relationship with Torbay, and so that's a considerable factor for them in that. And unfortunately, the line has to be drawn somewhere. Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Marcus. Are there any more questions? Golly. Oh, Councillor Goodman, don't disappoint.
Thank you. I've got several questions to ask, so whether I ask them each one and then answer.
How do you feel that they need to be answered by different people or all the same person?
Different people, I would imagine.
So do you want to ask them one by one? It might be easier.
So first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the report, and I can imagine how much work has gone into producing this report over the last few months. Tonight we're being asked to vote on something, and I think members have got to say to themselves, have they got enough information to base that decision on? And so my questions are based around the data as well, that on page 26, 27, we got the resource data. But what we don't have is what the net effect's going to be, i.e. what's the cost of running the council? Am I right in saying that information is not available, so therefore we won't know what the true effect of it's going to be?
Andy, can you take that one, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I probably just point members towards the response to the first criteria or criterion in the Minister's letter on page 32 of the agenda. And you see there's quite a lengthy response to the question about identifying any barriers or challenges where further clarity or support would be helpful. And one of those kind of subheadings absolutely relates to the financial framework, the point around clarification of long-term funding models, for example, for unitary and combined authority structures, detailed guidance on the treatment of existing debt and assets across current councils. There's a whole load of detail that we are deliberately seeking because we do not have a complete picture at the moment, Chair.
I'd like to come back, if I may, please, Andy, on that. Is that whilst you've got the net resources, as you've got on page 26, 27, surely one at some time has got to know what the cost of running the councils are. So therefore, that's why I say we haven't really got the information. So I will move on. The next point is Exeter. We're actually signing up to include Exeter in this, but Exeter don't want to be part of it. So what conversations have we as a council and collectively as councils had with Exeter?
Yes.
I think that's leader. That's a leader question.
We have Team Devon, as you know, so Exeter included in that. We have the Devon Districts Forum and Exeter included in that. And around about 4 or 5 weeks ago, when Exeter made it crystal clear and were perfectly honest about it, that they wished to put in their own proposal, it was agreed that a working group of the Devon Districts Forum would be set up. East Devon, I took the chair of that, and that is the remainder of the districts. Exeter have ploughed their own furrows since. They haven't been excluded, but in 4 or 5 weeks, it's very hard to see what else we could have done but just put our case forward while they put their case forward. They know what we're doing. We know what they're doing. I was at the inaugural meeting of the new Devon Combined County Authority in Tavistock this morning. Had a conversation with Phil Bionic of Labour. The relationships are extremely good, and it is understood that if, for sake of argument, Devon, Exeter is not successful, that of course we'll all be back in the same room together.
So it's true to say we're putting a application in without the support of Exeter. Okay.
I'm not sure that's what the leader said.
No,
Actually.
that is what's happening, isn't it?
Well, please. It's a difficult habit, Councillor. Please don't put words into my mouth. That's not what I said at all. That's not what I said at all.
But it is true, isn't it?
They're not signing up to this.
No, that's right.
But there's no. So, for example, South Hams aren't signing up to what Plymouth are doing, but Plymouth are putting it in nevertheless. Nobody is signing up to what Devon County is doing with the greater thing, the Conservative idea for one thing. Do you see what I mean? So you can't have it all. You're not going to get everybody on every proposal.
But it's true to say, we're putting, the leaders of the other councils are putting an application in, which includes Exeter, but Exeter don't want to be in it. That's true, isn't it? That is true. No, that is true. It's not spinning, that's truth.
I tell you what, it isn't true.
Isn't true?
No.
Oh.
How do I know that? Would you like to know how I know that? Have they taken a vote on this yet?
Theirs is tomorrow.
Exactly.
The next question I've got is, who decided, how did the group of leaders decide which was the best solution? What criteria did they use? I know we've got the sources, but I'm still confused. How did we decide that was the best one?
So I do believe this is the result of several weeks of negotiations, isn't it? I think, is this a question for you, Leader? I think it might be.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm asking.
Well, the criteria have been, Andy's covered them and I've covered them, so I wouldn't want to rehearse those all over again. Those are very clear and those are set by government. And that is what all the chief executives and Andy acting as the central hub for that, and all the leaders have gone with religiously in coming to this proposal.
Right, my last is really a point that I know Ian spoke about earlier on, the concern about the cost of this. And in the report, it says £250,000 to £300,000 for consultants. However, is that shared costs, or will it just be East Devon's cost? Because I was confused, because if it's shared costs, then it's not quite as much as 250,000 just for us. And I wonder if you could clarify.
Thank you for that, Councillor Goodman. I think that's a question for Andy, isn't it, really? Nuts and bolts question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So that's a collective shared cost.
So it's not as bad as,
Okay, is that the end of the questions?
Yes,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Right, Councillor Barlow, did you want to come back in?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Look, I realise this is going to get voted for tonight, and I thank the officers. I think it's great. You've come up with a plan because we were told we had to. My concern is that we're now going to go off and use our officers, because we're leading this. Our leader is leading us forward with these other councils. And I just worry that we're going to be putting in a lot of time and effort of our officers where, you know, our council has its own issues that we really need to get to grips with now. We know what they are. Andy must be the busiest person and well, probably in the whole of the country as far as I'm concerned. He seems to be in charge of everything, doing everything, and now we're going to put this on him as well. We're going to put all this time and effort in, and because the chances of us getting all these districts to agree this is, you know, I said 50-50 earlier. I doubt if we could even get to 10%, the chance of it, everyone agreeing what we're going to put forward. So therefore, the government will decide what we're going to do. The government will decide, well, that's what it says. The government will decide. We put forward up to the 28th of November what we want. We spend all this time on it, and then the government can turn around and say, don't like that. We want.
Councillor Barlow, I'm going to divide, I think, your question into two bits, and I'm going to give one bit to the leader and one bit
I haven't finished my question yet.
Tracy. Okay.
Yeah. So
Because I'm going to struggle to keep up with your questions if it's going to be like.
but it's only one basic question: is we're spending all this money that then the government is going to decide what is going to happen. That's a fact in the thing. So the government is going to decide where we're going. Even if we all agree and they don't like it, they can change their mind. So my point is, we're going to spend all this money and we don't know what the outcome will be. So why are we doing that? Why aren't we spending our time and our effort? You know, the only legacy this council will leave, the legacy is what we leave to our residents in East Devon. That's who we are accountable to, not to the people up in Torridge or North Devon. That's the government's job, and not being funny, the county's job. So what are we going to leave to our residents? We're going to be spending all this money on something that we may not get agreement to, and even then, all of our assets, our reserves, and everything else will get put into this new thing. Shouldn't we be looking at, more importantly, spending our officer time and money in looking at how we can make sure that we protect East Devon going forward, so that whatever happens in the future, you're saying earlier that it may be that the new thing that starts up only is going to last for 2 years. You know, because of the cost of send. We don't even know the cost of send. We're not the county council. We don't run special educational needs. So how can we even guess that? But this is what you said. I just think that at the end of the day, let's concentrate on what's important to our residents, not what the government should be doing and telling us what they want to do. They should be telling us that now, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So I will be voting for this. I will be voting for this because at the end of the day, it's fine. It doesn't make any difference. But I will not be, you better be coming back to us and saying if we're going to spend any more money going forward, because this resolution only says to put this in. It doesn't say about spending a lot more money looking into things going forward.
Okay, I'm going to pass this over to the leader at this point, I
Yeah,
think.
so very quickly, I totally get Councillor Barlow's frustration. It's shared, it's completely shared. What would happen if we didn't do this today? And what would happen if we didn't do more homework? That really is when the government come in and say, right, you're doing that. The government don't want to tell us what to do at the end of the day because the government don't live down here. They don't know. They have said in all of the briefings and all the accompanying documents, they want to hear what the localities wish to do. So we have to take them. And although I'd like to be Mystic Meg and, know the result of the Grand National, we can't know these things. All we can do is professionally answer the questions we've been asked to address and then move on to the next phase, and that's what we'll do. But taking your point about expenditure, Ian, of course we'll try and keep that to a minimum. I might ask Tracy in a minute to address your points on capacity, officer capacity, because I'm sure nobody particularly cares leader capacity. I mean, I've just been sweating this, sort of solidly for 3 months as well, but I'm expendable. We can't afford to lose the officers. So, yeah, as they say, we are where we are. But rest assured, nobody wants to spend money that's not necessary. Nobody wants to fail, and we want to come out with a solution for our residents that is the best possible. And the only way you do that is if you play the game. But if you just say we're not taking part, then it will be done to you. And that's not what I think, it's what they say. So, as I said, and I keep saying it, we are required to respond. We're not being politely asked, "Oh, would you care?" Like sort of Sergeant Wilson. I wonder if you might be interested in submitting a response. It's submitted by Friday, or you're out of the game.
Thank you, leader. Tracy, do you want to say anything?
I think it's really challenging in the sense that we do recognise the fact that we are in a position where we do not want to be done to. So we do want to ensure that we are able to, over the summer, consider the information, pull together the statistical data and put in the most appropriate report that we can that reflects the needs of those districts and unitary authorities that are within the one grouping. To date, we haven't spent any funding on officer time. We have done this within our existing portfolios. We've done that within our existing capacity. But across the summer, we have already discussed with the other districts and Torbay the fact that if we do want to ensure that we put in an appropriate report that covers all of the bases, that we will need to work together and look at what capacity will be required to enable us to do this. And at the moment, that's as far as we've got.
Thank you, Tracy. I don't know if that reassures you in any way, Councillor Barlow.
Well, other than the fact we don't know what it's going to cost, but as I said, even if we
Well,
do
we
all
don't.
of that, no, but if we do all of that, the government can just turn around and say they don't want that anyway. So we're back then to,
But then if we
shouldn't
don't-
we be spending the time and money on looking after our assets and making sure that our local towns and parishes that was mentioned earlier are in a position to run and look after the things that are important. Planning, we accept that's going to go. We accept that the housing will be going. We accept that the rubbish collection will be going. That's fine. But the things like parks and gardens, toilets, things that matter to our actual residents, we should be taking control of that. And the sooner we do that, the better. Because as we were told earlier, the 27th, April 27 is when that some of the council's powers will be taken away from us. And it may be we can't then devolve anything at that stage. So that gives us about a year.
I think this is an evolving picture. I'm going to pass back to Tracy on specifically on the services.
Ian, just to reassure you, we are not taking our eye off the ball around the services that we're providing. We're absolutely committed to continue to provide the frontline operational services that are being provided by this authority and will continue to be provided by this authority whilst this authority is with an authority to provide them.
So if that can reassure members of the public and ourselves that actually our services are not going anywhere until they are held under a different envelope. On my list next, I have Councillor Mackinder, please, and then Councillor Hayward, and then Councillor Brian Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. If I could just pick up on Councillor Barlow's point. I completely understand he doesn't want to spend money that might then be written off. However, I think we can all see that there are big changes afoot which will happen whether we like it or not. I think we would be incredibly remiss as councillors to not put some effort and some that will have some cost into planning for that. We can't just let the world happen to us. So to me, if we're going to do the best for our residents in the future as well as right now, we need to look at what those futures might be. And it's exactly the same about climate change. We know there are big uncertainties out there. If we just say, I've no idea how that's going to shake out, let's just carry on parks and gardens right now, and then climate change destroys our world, we have been incredibly remiss. This is exactly the same on government, and we, as a council, should be putting appropriate amount of resource into making sure we look after the long term of the residents who live in the area currently called East Devon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackinder. Fail to plan, plan to fail, I think. Right, Councillor Hayward, please. Councillor Brian Bailey, then, please.
Caught me in mid. I can see that this, in my opinion, is verging on dictatorship. We put all the time and effort and money, and I think the report's great, and what's been done by the officers in a very short period of time is commendable. However, when you look at the government's angle from this, you know, if they don't like it, they will impose something else on us. So the consultation will not be relevant. How many we have doesn't really matter. But the main thing that sticks in my throat is the lack of provision for want of a better description, the less fortunate. We're looking at adult social care, children's special needs, NHS funding. That is crucial to everybody. And that, to my mind, should be at the top of the list. Now, I cannot support this in good conscience, knowing that those particular groups of our society, and who knows, in the near future, any one of us could be joining those groups for ill health or an accident or whatever. And we're not going to get the support we need, so I can't vote against it. Thank you very much.
Brian, I'm sure I speak for everybody involved in the negotiations. The services are not going to disappear. The leader wants to come in on this, actually, and to address a specific point.
Just briefly. So, through you, Chair, Brian, Councillor Bailey, what you're being invited to vote for tonight is about the next move for the district. And then, you know, to put it, you know, in blunt terms, adult and children's social care and special educational need, we've already said and agree with you that this whole business from the government doesn't deal with that. But the question that's being asked of us tonight is, are we willing to put forward this proposal to get a card on the table? Adult and children's social services and special educational need will come further down the line. Not will because it's an aspiration, will because it legally will have to. But at the moment, that sits, if I may, with your party at Devon County Council, and that's where it sits. And that's a separate debate to tonight, I would say, respectfully.
Thank you, Leader. Next, we have Councillor Whibley, please, and then Councillor Loudon.
Hi there. I was just going to propose that the motion be put, I think, because we've had lots of questions about various, various things that are out of our control that aren't to do with what we're being asked about tonight. And I think it's really important that we just focus on this one question.
Thanks, Joe. So, I mean, it's worth reminding everybody present that the only thing we're being asked to vote on is to submit this report, which is in Annex C. I can fully understand why people want to talk about it further, though, so I'm not going to accept that the motion be put just yet, because I feel that people have concerns that need addressing still, and they need to ask questions. So on my list, I've got Councillor Loudon and Councillor Faithful. Councillor Faithful, were you? No, Councillor Loudon was next. Okay, Councillor Faithful first, then, please.
Thank you. First thing I want to say, I know people have been saying negative things about this plan. Personally, I can think of positive reasons for this change, because I'm sure every councillor here, as a district councillor, must have been approached by general public commenting about highways. And I have to take it to our county councillor, and they take it on to somebody else. I can't do it myself. I'm not supposed to, proper procedure. So, and that one county councillor for Ottery has to go from Ottery to Otterton. And that's not the biggest division that they have to cover. So to be able to cover the whole package as one councillor or one group of councillors or whatever you have, I think is a positive way forward. But I do support a lot of the comments. I think this is the way things are happening. I don't think is very great. The one thing I'm really concerned about is that if we're too much, oh, we want this and they want that and somebody else wants the other, we cannot quite easily end up not getting what we want, which I think others have been saying. And can we please get some communication, at least with Devon County, because I think I would rather we were a single Devon County, even if it excludes Plymouth, than have to have a greater Exeter, which is the way it seems to be going, unless it's some sort of amazing package, that it's, I think would be, I don't know, I think, can we please make that extra effort to work with Devon, please?
I think
Can our Devon County councillor?
This is a very relevant question. I'm actually going to pass it over to the leader right now.
Could I just ask?
Come back in a moment. Let's just get an answer to that.
Yes, so again, sorry to bore everybody, but so I was today at the inaugural meeting of the Combined County Authority, which perhaps slightly comically is starting up just as we're preparing to get rid of county and districts in the long term. However, it's something that has been set up in good faith between the administrations of Devon County and Torbay. I sit on it as a non-constituent member, one of two district members who sit on it. So I was, as I said earlier, I was in the room with Phil Bialik, talking with him, James McInnes, the leader of the Conservatives at County. You may have some political differences, but I've absolutely no doubt that there are really seriously open channels between all of the councils. So don't despair of that. We'll all be in the room together, definitely. A, because, well, we have to, but B, because it's the right thing to do and people want to. All of the meetings around this, whether it's Team Devon, Devon Districts Forum, or the working group of Devon Districts Forum, they've been really amicable. The way in which we have managed to work with the officers as well and ask them to do the work around the ideas that have come forward, it's been fantastic. The way in which the officers have worked behind the scenes with each other across all of the councils, including County, after a slightly slow start with County perhaps, has been exemplary. So I think we're in a good place. And if you're, as they say at the end of a football match, taking the positives, one of the positives of this very challenging 3 months has been precisely to open up those lines of communication even more than before. Sorry, Peter, I know you had another question.
Sorry, so Councillor Faithful, you have a second part to your question?
But it was more directed to our one Devon County councillor who's present in the room. Can he perhaps give any indication as why Devon are, I don't know if he's been involved with any of this, why Devon County are being so, keeping themselves away from the rest of us.
I mean, I wouldn't want to put councillor Hartnell on the spot, but do you want? Are you? I mean, I think it's unfair to put him on the spot like that, to be honest.
I think I would just say councillor Arnott's really answered the question, if I'm honest.
So yeah, no, sorry about that, Peter. So that's it. You've done all your questions. So next on my list, I have got councillor Bethany Collins, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just want to echo the support for the officers and the members that have worked really, really hard in getting the proposal to where it is today. I know it's been a gargantuous task and I don't envy them whatsoever. I think at the end of the day, what I just wanted to say really is that I think I speak for the majority of us listening to people's comments over the last few months that no one is really happy with this. But it's, you know, it's the cards that we've been dealt and we have to make the best of a bad situation is sort of, you know, how I see it. And it doesn't for 1 minute mean that we're forgetting about our residents and the vital services that they rely on every day. We're putting this proposal together to get the best possible outcome for our residents. And I think that it is a bit rubbish, the whole situation, but we've got to deal with it because like Tracy said, otherwise it's going to be done to us. And I think, you know, you can't complain when you're on the outside of it if you haven't put the work in to try and do what's best for everyone. So I, again, just thank you to everyone that's put so much hard work into this and hopefully we get the best outcome, but I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Bethany. Right, next on my list, I have councillor Bruce and then councillor Ingham. Alistair, you're up if you want to be.
No, Chair, I didn't put my hand
Okay.
up for this one. No,
Then I was
already been.
misinformed
Lovely.
then. Right, it's you next then, Ben. Councillor Ingham, please.
Thank you, Chair. If national government seriously believe that this is a methodology of resolving social care problems, then looking to the future, I can only see the largest single unitary in Devon as being the most likely option for resolving that. That's if they believe it. Whether anyone else believes that is a matter of conjecture. What's important to me as a Devonian is that I just cannot see it being in the interests of Devon to have an east and west unitary or a north and south unitary, because inevitably you'll be creating the haves and the have-nots. And that is just ethically so wrong to do to our county as a road you're going to roll us down into the future. And it's that simple. So that's why I certainly cannot support the idea of the 145 proposal or any other proposals that split Devon into more than one unitary.
Just while the chair is recovering, I'll come in. So, Ben, I think everybody's got a lot of sympathy, Councillor Ing, with what you say. That whole Devon one is disallowed by the government on the basis that it's too big, and they are explicit about that. It's too big as a unitary. In fact, if you did it that big, and I may be wrong, I suspect it would be the biggest unitary in the country. So they're not going to go for it. They might go for it at that scale in terms of that quantum, in terms of population, if we were one smoky city somewhere in the north of England. But they will say that many people over that geographic spread, they're just going to say no. And that, I think, is why they've directed us to look at these 500,000 units, which, as I said before, they may even change their mind and go down below that. I mean, I sympathise with what you're saying, absolutely, but it's not what the government are asking for.
Yeah,
North
so
Yorkshire.
North Yorkshire is
land
20% bigger by area,
Land
but
mass.
not by volume of people.
Well, it's like 500,000, isn't
Well,
it?
that's fascinating.
Land mass with the people. Yeah. Okay. Next up, I have Councillor Bruce and then Councillor Hayward, please. Councillor Bruce first.
Thank you, Chair.
Ironically.
Forgive me, I did remember why I vaguely put my hand up. It was simply to second Councillor Wibley's motion to go to the vote.
That's fine. Request refused at the moment. We're nearly there though. Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, following on from Councillor Ingham, it should be pointed out that Devon already is split into unitaries. So there is no one Devon. Plymouth is part of Devon. Torbay is part of Devon. It already exists. It's just a redesignation. And of course, you know, from the points made by Councillor Bailey and others, this plan has been developed, foisted upon local government at very short notice by this new government post-July 2024. This plan was dreamed up in a manifesto in 2019. Full devolution is what that government in 2019 said. Full devolution for England. And in that same manifesto, we will fix social care. So this essentially is just a rehash of something else that another party dreamed up. It's been put in a folder by civil servants, special advisors, and been passed from one drawer to another, one filing cabinet to another. Now we're dealing with it. So we owe it to our residents to be proactive and come up with a solution that works for East Devon. But while it's also working for East Devon, it's going to work for other districts. We are sharing intel with other associations, you know, with other county authorities, with other unitaries. I spent last week in Windsor 2 days listening to district councils decrying the process that's been done to the Minister, to the Secretary of State. There was a common theme that the county authorities across the country have not shared data. They haven't shared the information needed to allow the other authorities to put in the required response to this. So this authority, in conjunction with others, is doing the best it can with a bad hand. We all agree this is a ill thought out process, but it's what the government does. And to come back to Councillor Barlow's point, you know, that why are we engaging if government's just going to do it? Well, in that case, why do any of us bother standing to be councillors? Because government can just do what it damn well wants, when it wants, because it is the government. If it passes a law that says from tomorrow, you will not be able to be a landlord, you won't be able to be a landlord. If it said tomorrow there'll be a law, you cannot be a redhead, you won't be able to be a redhead. So this is the reality of life. National government calls the shots. All subservient governments do what we are asked, because if we don't, it will be done to us instead of done with our involvement. So I do, applaud the debate that's gone forward, but as Councillor Woodby says, just let the motion be put. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Are there any more questions, or can I move to the seconder of the motion to bookend this debate? I think I'm going to move over to Councillor Loudon. It's over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I first of all say I have every sympathy with colleagues who've called for the vote to be put. But however, just briefly, I've equally got understood the concerns and the questions that colleagues have put this evening. This is an important issue. It's also confusing, frankly. It's confusing as to why we're having to do it. That's the first confusion. And then the confusion also is about not quite knowing where it is the government precisely wants us to land. And as we keep saying, we're not masters of our own destiny here. We're trying to shape it, we're trying to influence it, and that's why we're investing time and money in doing so. And that is part and parcel of what this authority has to do. Yes, it's hugely important that we go out and we empty the bins and we, repair our properties, etc., etc. But also part of our responsibility is to look after the residents, I think as Councillor McKinder said, both today and into the future. And it is into the future that we're trying to influence. And to do that, we have to spend money. And back in January, we passed a number of recommendations through this council on the 9th of January, one of which was to authorise the Chief Executive to take forward the discussions in order to look at developing, creating the future potential shape within Devon. It's naive to think that you can ask the chief executive to do that and that she doesn't spend any time of hers or anybody else's in this authority or any money of this authority in doing that. Even if she has to spend the money to put petrol in the car to go to a meeting, she's spending money. So let's not just try and tie ourselves up as seemed to be what was being proposed earlier on. I believe the chief executive has the authority that we gave her back in January to take this forward and to look to develop the roadmap that we talked about. What we're being asked today to do is to go further by submitting the interim plan. You have it before you. It has been set out very clearly that this is, again, a next step along the way. Who knows where it's going to lead to? And maybe, as one of my colleagues said, only 10% of agreement will be achieved across the 8 councils. Well, I like to believe that it's going to be a higher percentage than that. I like to try and look at this through rose-tinted glasses. So let us back decisively tonight the interim plan and then look to see what the next steps are. And this will come back, and it will come back, and it will come back. And at some point, we will reach the end of the road, and it may be something we're happy with, maybe not. In the hands of the government.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. Okay, I think we're getting to the end, and I think we're ready to vote on this now. So you have a recommendation in front of you, which is that the Chief Executive be given delegated authority in consultation with the Council Leader to submit an interim plan, which is the thing that we received this morning, based on the proposal set out in this report in response to the Minister of State for Local Government and English Devolution's letter dated 5th of February 2025 by the deadline of 21st of March 2025, which is Friday. So if you are in favour of that recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? If you are against that recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? And if you wish to abstain on that recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? And that is very widely carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your attendance this evening at this yet another full council meeting, and safe drive home. And thank you for watching online if you're watching online. Well, Chair, well done. Well, it's a bit less contentious than the last year. True. It is. It is.